Hey everyone, today I want to talk about some tips for getting your spending habits under control. For me, I had always been kind of frustrated to hear the same thing over and over again, like, oh, stop getting coffee on your way to work, when I don't do that anyway. So these were things that were concrete and they really worked for me. So I want to jump right in and tell you some tips and some ways to get those spending habits under control. So tip number one is to think about your why. Having a why is really motivating and helpful so that when you're tempted to buy something impulsively, you can think like, why should I not do that? So maybe like a year or two, like 2.5 years ago, I started coming home from work and I would be like, hey babe, I saw this really cute baby at work. And he'd be like, cool. And then like I'd come home the next day and be like, I saw this like other cute baby with like really chunky cheeks. And it was like, okay, we had talked about having kids. Like we always knew we were gonna have kids or we wanted to start our own family. But we talked about it and between the two of us, like really quick math, we both had student loans, we both had car payments. And they were both in the range of like $250 to $300 a month. So like even on the low end of $250, we knew that if we could get our debt paid off, both cars and both student loans, that would be an extra $1,000 a month, again, on the low end, that we could have to put towards having a family. Kids are expensive. And also, we really want to buy a house. So knowing that we want to set these goals for ourselves, we want to make it easier to buy a house, we want to have a more substantial down payment than when we purchased our last place that we lived in. We learned a lot of really good lessons from that. That became our why. And we also developed some secondary whys. We hope to travel again someday. We haven't done a lot of that, given the current state of everything and having a baby and working and, things get a little bit chaotic and they've been a little bit like that for the last maybe 1.5 or 2 years. But we know we want to travel again. We want to have that financial freedom. So having a really strong why has helped us both in our spending habits. Tip number two is you have to build spending and fun money into your budget or you will lose it. It's kind of like a restrictive eating plan. You can only hang in there for so long before you're like, I can't do this, I need a cheesecake. It's not saying that you should go spend money frivolously without thinking about it, but it's allowing that freedom and a plan for how you spend your money. Sometimes for me personally, it's nice just knowing that I have the money. No matter how little money it is, it's just like nice knowing I have the freedom that if I want to stop and grab, a cup of tea, or if I want to get a new pair of shorts, like you're not going to do this all the time, but having a little bit of flexibility in your budget is so helpful. One time we were talking with a friend who has the most amazing kids and we were asking them about, just like spending habits and teaching their kids about gratitude and, ways to be happy with what you have and how to decide like where to spend your money and all of that. And he said something that I thought was so good. And actually he tells his kids this, but I think about this all the time. He says, you can have anything, but you can't have everything. And I just thought that was so profound when thinking about a budget. It's not about saying like you can't have anything and you don't deserve to ever buy yourself anything nice or go anywhere or do anything, but it's about prioritizing and deciding where you're going to splurge or where you're going to spend your money. Next tip, open a backup account for fun spending. This kind of goes along with the last tip. So maybe like a year or two ago, I opened a backup account through my bank. It was through online banking. It only took me like 5 minutes and I literally put like 20 bucks in there. But I'm like, this is gonna be my account for when I just want to have a little extra money and I wanna buy something for myself. And so it was super like low key. I wasn't making any extraordinary goals for this. It was just like if I had an extra 5, 10, 15 bucks with my paycheck, I would just move it over there. And it's so nice to know that I have extra money there in case I want to buy something for myself. I've been putting off buying sneakers and mine have been falling apart for like 1.5 years. So I think I'm going to do that. But I have that backup money so that I know that I have the freedom to do that. I'm really excited about it. The only tip I have is make sure that you choose the right account. So make sure it's not something that requires a direct deposit or a minimum balance, because if you do that, they will hit you with fees. So just make sure that you look into that. But it's just nice to have something there in case I want to do a little shopping and I don't feel deprived. Tip number 4, use cash or gift cards. I would have advised cash for spending maybe like 6, 8, 10 months ago, but we're not sort of in a place where you want to maybe be handling money, giving money to someone else, exchanging money for change, all of that. So I recommend buying gift cards for yourself, and that helps you budget for fun money, or even sometimes it can help with practical money. So for example, I have been doing a lot of Target drive up just for practical things, and I go like probably 5 days a week. And I know that sounds crazy, but maybe on Monday I'm like, oh, I'm out of baby food, so I go get baby food. And then maybe Tuesday I'm like, oh, we're out of body wash. And so it becomes this thing where I just drive up, they put it in my trunk, and I drive away. So it's really easy, and I don't have to go in the store, which I really like right now. But the problem is it adds up quickly. And some of these things are practical, and some of them are practical, but maybe not exactly a necessity. So I've started buying myself like a $50 or $100 Target gift card, and I put it on they have like an app. So I put it in there, and it becomes really easy to see what I'm down to, how much I'm spending. And actually it's nice too, because then I don't see like a million charges on my card for like Target. So it's really nice because that helps me with my spending, because I have pre-purchased it and I can see what I'm doing as I use it. Next tip, and this is a huge one, especially for me, is to know your triggers and avoid your triggers. So they can be anything. My husband says his is Black Friday. He just like anything that goes on sale that's an electronic. He's like, do I need it? Do I want it? Should I get it? For me, boredom, they mentioned in this article that I read, just waiting at an appointment, you know, you're sitting there and you're like, oh, what's there to do? I'll scroll, I'll shop. Email marketing, unsubscribing from things that tempt you. There's this clothing line that I really like, and they email me like probably like 6 days a week. And I had to unsubscribe because it was so tempting, and all of the subject lines are like 50% off, 60% off, you know, add a 20% off on top of your already reduced prices of 50% off. And it was so tempting to constantly open them. So I thought that was a really good tip, knowing your triggers and doing your best to avoid them. Social media is another place. Influencers, companies, they're all in front of our faces all day long. And sometimes I find, I unfollowed a lot of influencers, which was really good. I sometimes like wound up like, oh, I like that outfit. Oh, I'll follow you. Or, oh, I like that jewelry that you're selling, or those planners that you make. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm following like 90 influencers. And it not only becomes temptation of I want what you have, but you kind of start to feel this lack of gratitude with what you already have. It wasn't a great balance. So I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna unfollow everybody, but I need to be more mindful about what I'm putting in front of myself. And that's my responsibility, to think about what I'm putting in front of myself. So I allowed myself to keep following a few accounts that I really like, brands, people, whatever, but that was a huge trigger for me, and not following them has been a major help with my spending habits. Next up, delete your shopping apps. I know it's tempting because they're so convenient, but sometimes the convenience is what makes it so easy to overspend. So for example, I have shopping apps where they save my credit card and my payment information, so that makes it super easy to buy stuff. Food shopping apps like Chipotle, for example, you know, I'm having a day where I'm like running late, or I'm cranky, or I don't feel like making dinner or whatever. Not only do they save my payment information, they save my location, they save my last order, so it's so easy to just go buy something and order dinner. And that can be said for a number of different retail venues, and it just makes it so that there's no hurdle. You want to think about putting a hurdle between you and the item, and if it's something that's really worth it to you, you will go through the ordering or the purchasing process. But if you find yourself in a lot of bad habits, or it's like this is getting out of control, try deleting those apps so that you have to ask yourself, is this purchase really worth it? Is this something that I really want? Next up, ask yourself lots of questions before making your purchase. So sometimes I like to just walk around, you know, when you go shopping and, you know, you see something you like, but something that's really helped me, especially with clothing, is asking myself a lot of questions. What will this look like after it comes out of the dryer a few times? Is it still gonna be as beautiful as it is on the hanger? Do I have space for this? Am I actually gonna wear it? Do I think I like it, or do I actually like it? Like, there are a lot of questions to take into consideration when buying stuff, especially material items that are gonna take up space in your home. If you get into a habit, I found this for me anyway, of buying a lot of stuff, then it's twofold. I've spent too much money and now I have clutter again, and that's not something I want. So for example, this is what my sock drawer looks like right now. I folded all my socks back in January, and somehow miraculously I've been able to maintain it this way. And I think I've been able to maintain it this way because I have the exact number of socks that fit in the drawer. I don't need more socks. So if I'm out and I see this great deal on brand new socks at Target, maybe they were $10 for a pack and now for some crazy clearance and whatever, they're on sale for $2. I mean, that's pretty drastic. Let's just imagine I still don't have room for socks in my drawer. So then I have to ask myself, what kind of condition are my socks in? Do I want to get rid of some socks to make room for these new socks? Because I don't want the clutter. And then I start thinking to myself, and I read this somewhere too, I thought this was so good. Even if it's 80% off, it's still 20% on if you don't need it and you didn't budget for it. So asking those questions has really made it so I am thinking about, do I really need this? Do I have a space for this? Will this make me happy? Is it a necessity? Is it a want? And maybe sometimes I do buy these things, but asking myself these questions definitely has made me a lot more choosy and careful with where I spend my money. Last tip, put things in your cart and let them sit there, or make a wish list for yourself, email a link, come back tomorrow to the store, wherever you were shopping, just let it sit for 24 hours. So I've heard this tip before and I was like, I'm gonna try this, and it has helped so much. So sometimes you think you want something or you think you need something, and then you're like, I'm gonna wait on it, and then you forget about it. And so it really has helped me see like something I thought was a necessity isn't a necessity, or sometimes it was fun to just look, or maybe I was just browsing because I was bored. I actually read a few articles about the release of dopamine in your brain while you're browsing or shopping, and I'm gonna link them below just because I thought they were interesting reads about how a lot of times, you find pleasure or dopamine is released just by browsing, or the anticipation of the idea of getting something, and even more so than actually getting the item. So I thought that was really interesting, and thinking about those things and developing the habits of just waiting, that has helped me so much control my spending habits. So there you have it, some tips to help control your spending habits. If you have any that you want to add, I would love to hear them in the comments below. Sometimes it's really hard to get out of these habits. Like I said, I feel like they go in waves for me, and I'm definitely in a wave of wanting to shop right now. Probably just out of, being a little bored at home, stuff like that. But it's really important for me to reflect on making purchases before I actually do them, because I think that helps control what's going on in my budget overall. So if you'd like more budget tips, I'd love to hear about that too. I'm hoping to make some more videos about budgeting and spending and ways to come up with extra money in your budget each month. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear those as well. So if you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.